it didn't matter because all my lineups were captained by Edwards-Helaire. So,
yay!
I was able to enjoy the game.
What dust?
All right, let's hope it's a little better this time around. This is the Yahoo NFL Live Show. Pete McCarthy, Eric Lindquist with you. Monday Night Football, another primetime affair, which means we've got about 70 points on the way tonight, Eric Lindquist. We just have no idea who the heck is going to score them for the Lions.
Well, 0 people are going to score them for the Lions. It's probably the right answer, but we know fantasy points. Maybe we can find a couple of those. The whole touchdowns. If I set the over-under at 2, what are you taking?
Touchdowns for the Lions?
For the Lions.
I'll take the over.
Oh, I'm optimistic. Taking the under so hard. Oh, man.
I just don't know who's going to score. Well, all these primetime games have had points, right? Even the Giants of Washington, they were able to score some points. Nobody thought we were going to see points in that game. This is the new NFL. Everybody's Jared Goff's going to be slinging it tonight, baby. It's primetime football. We ain't playing 13-10 tonight.
I mean, I'm not playing 13-10. I think it's more like 38-10, but here we are. I was going to say, we've never gotten a chance to work together. I already feel like we have rapport, so this is nice. Looking forward to tonight. I'll take any football. I mean, it's only week 2. I mean, we're finishing out week 2 here. Week 3, we'll jump into tomorrow. We'll have all the content in the world for that, but I mean, so much we don't know yet. And just to pretend like we know everything is one thing, but man, do I look for a bounce back here.
I love to pretend that I know everything, so I will do that for the next 30 minutes for you. Get involved in the comments, of course, as well on YouTube. Our show is also brought to you by our sports betting podcast, Betting You. Ben Rossa, Matt Gajeski. They've got you covered with everything college football betting as they take you through each conference, the best bets on the board. Betting You is available now wherever you get your podcasts with new episodes dropping every Wednesday. We'll be talking some pro football, some Monday Night Football, divisional matchup, a couple of 0-1 teams that need a win. The Packers, we know they looked terrible last week against the New Orleans Saints. I didn't think it could look worse a week later, but somehow it does after the Saints were pasted by Carolina. I will say I'm willing to throw that game out for the Packers, just whatever. One of those games, don't even worry about it. Meanwhile, the Lions, they kept the score close against the San Francisco 49ers, but not a particularly impressive effort. And the injury report is a big factor here for the Lions. They lost Tyrell Williams, one of their receivers, out with a concussion. Deandre Swift, the running back, questionable going into tonight with a groin injury, but he did practice in full on Saturday. He is expected to play. And they also lost their cornerback, Jeff Okudah. So it's not only like who's going to score for the Lions, it's also who the heck is going to cover Devontae Adams. There are some big matchup issues here for Detroit.
Yeah, and I'm looking at PFF right now as far as the team rankings go. I'm just going to throw this out there. Defensive ranking, 32nd. ELO ranking, 32nd. I believe there's 32 teams in the NFL. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think there might be issues for the Detroit Lions slowing down Devontae Adams in this one. We're going to have a lot of discussion about that, but I think
Dan Campbell's jaw can do it though.
Yeah, just the jagged jaw action. Yeah. He might just have his puffy coat on there in Green Bay tonight and, be able to inspire awe in his defense, just showing no emotion whatsoever.
I like it. And as far as the Packers go, they're without Zadarius Smith as well. So defensively, there's some issues there for Green Bay, which is why I would say the over on the Lions. Now, if you want to look at the spread and what Vegas is looking at here, Packers are favored by 11.5. I think the game will be a little closer than that, in my opinion. You obviously do not, Eric. And then the over-under is sitting at 48.5. So you're basically looking at Packers 30, Lions 18, 19. Is what Vegas is looking at this game. Again, I think it's going to be a little tighter. I do think you have some points tonight, but when you're playing these single game contests, that's kind of the first thing you want to do is sit back and say, how is this game going to play out? And then you go from there. Because if I think, hey, this is going to be a 7-point game, even if I have the Packers winning and you have the Packers winning, Eric, if you have them winning by 20, you could do some different things. Maybe you're more likely to put a running back in that superstar spot where I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to pass for 60 minutes here.
Yeah, it's going to be, you could sit around and try to come up with like the game script for it. But what I think this really comes down to is because we have such concentrated target volume for Green Bay. We know it's going to go through Aaron Rodgers. It's going to go through the ball's coming out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. It's going into Aaron Jones and Davante Adams' hands. I don't think there's anybody who's going to sit around and try to figure out some way that we're not going to play those three. It's one game. You're going to play a ton of them. Figuring out what to do on the other side of it, and along with it, if you're going to be playing any pieces whatsoever of this Green Bay team that aren't those three, you're probably getting different. I mean, the Robert Tanyans, the Alan Lazards, those guys are going to get no traction comparatively. And I think just, figuring out what you're going to do with them might be even as important, if not more important, than just figuring out what to do with this lowly team on the other side, where I think it does have a kind of a clear path for the Detroit Lions where we need to look at.
We'll dig into all these positions and what the injury report is going to tell us in the hours prior to the game, usually that last hour prior to the game, with some game time decisions there for Detroit where you can pivot if that is needed. Of course, for some more in-depth help to get through to build your lineups, check out our Awesemo Plus NFL Express Weekly Pass. It's just $3.95. It's the best way to introduce yourself to Awesemo Plus NFL. Included is access to our NFL DFS player and ownership rankings, our expert Slack chat, and everything we have to offer for showdown and single game contests. New this year, the package is our season-long fantasy football coverage, which includes our strength of schedule tool, trade value tool, and fantasy streaming helper. So not only going to help you make some money on Yahoo, you can beat the hell out of your friends and take money from them too. Also included new this year is projected ownership and optimal lineup probabilities for tiers contests on DraftKings. So you're taken care of on everything there. Now's the time. Try it out. Awesemo Plus NFL with our most expansive Express Weekly Pass ever. Head on over to the Awesemo Plus join page and pick your pass up for only $3.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. And I've been amazed. This is my first year NFL season behind the paywall at Awesemo. The amount of information there that you can find, that you could dig, try to find an edge, find out where the leverage might be, ownership projections. It's staggering how much information is there.
Yeah, boom bust probability data. We've got the expert consensus plays that we have going constantly. We have top stacks tool that's kind of thrown into the mix. We have advanced data for adjusted rush pace, for snaps count data. We have so much stuff behind the paywall. It can be very overwhelming, but it is a great spot to be right now. Week 2 finishing out week 3. Now is when we start accumulating a lot of the data and we start making informed decisions on where to pivot, because everybody thinks they know everything now and we don't know a damn thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll guess one thing that I might be able to, without even looking at the data, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to have the most points at the end of tonight. That's probably one of the best. We hit the quarterbacks here. You look at Yahoo, Aaron Rodgers comes in at $34, Jared Goff, $25. It's not exactly overwhelming your budget here if you go with really either of these guys. It's hard to stay away from Aaron Rodgers. I think this game will be relatively close. I'm not getting away from him. It's really just a matter of, do you want to put him in that superstar spot? So I guess really the question is, do you find a place for Jared Goff tonight? Is he able to get enough done in order to find himself in the fray? Even though I think the Lions keep it close, I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of him.
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers is our highest projected player here at Awesemo in this game. 21.84 is our projection for him at the moment. Davante Adams sitting at 17.89. So Aaron Rodgers, just to touch base on him, he's the best superstar play that you have, period. Ownership independent. Ownership related, if we're going to have more ownership going his direction, it becomes Davante Adams for me, and we'll talk about him on the other side. But what we're talking about with Jared Goff is a team that, if they're going to be playing from behind, is going to get the most opportunity, our highest ranked player by far on the Lions side, because, obviously if they're behind, they're going to be throwing out the ball a lot. And last week, 92 total plays that they had in this game, 57 pass attempts for Jared Goff. I mean, there is a path, obviously, for these games where they are coming from behind, 38 for 57 with 3 touchdowns, just complete garbage time. These teams go into prevent defense, and it's the best scenario that you can possibly get as a fantasy football player. And so Jared Goff, I definitely want to get involved in a lot of lineups. This is a single game. It's always pretty foolish not to have exposure to both quarterbacks, but Jared Goff is going to be tough to pair over and over again with multiple players on his side, because you're going to want to get to more of the Aaron Jones, Rodgers, and Adams trio. But Jared Goff definitely going to be somebody to up your exposure to on the spot.
I suppose too with Goff, he's not necessarily a guy that you expect to run for a whole lot of yards, run for a touchdown, do his own thing. So he's going to be doing it through the air. but he's also not likely to throw all of his passes to one guy, right? I mean, TJ Hawkinson would be his number one target tonight, but that's a tight end. Maybe you get some big plays from a receiver or two. You're probably spreading out. Let's say he does manage to throw 2 touchdowns. There's no Davante Adams on the Detroit Lions right now. It's more likely that you have a bunch of guys with somewhere between 40 and 70 yards tonight than one guy that you expect to go out and have 105. And that makes it more likely that the quarterback is going to be in the mix at the end of the day.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I think it makes sense, though. Like Jared Goff, I think everything you're saying is pretty much spot on. It's just going to be very difficult to find multiple paths to go with him, because if it's not TJ Hawkinson, I mean, are we going to get enough out of some of these other receivers? And I've got some guys at the very, very bottom that you want to take shots at, and they're probably going to be independent of Jared Goff. It's going to be hard to play Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and then Jared Goff. It's actually literally impossible as I'm plugging them into lineups. So we got to figure out what we're going to be prioritizing. And of course, I'm going to be prioritizing that Packers trio. But Jared Goff, right now at his current level of rostership, I think we probably need to be, looking at 35% of lineups. And I think that that's a good allocation of him in this spot. And if Aaron Jones ends up being a guy that you're putting up in your superstar, it makes a lot of sense to have Jared Goff on the other side, because, it's his production isn't going to be as attached to Aaron Rodgers as what anybody else on the Packers is.
Well, let's hit the who Aaron Rodgers could be throwing to tonight, and then we'll get into the Lions, which is probably a little more interesting. Davante Adams, most expensive player on the board, $37. Look, he has a lot of experience going up against the Lions, but it's so often been Darius Slay. Slay's now in Philadelphia. Jeff Okudah, that was number 3 overall pick, he is out. So who the heck is covering Davante Adams tonight? That's a big challenge for the Detroit Lions here. So let's just start with Adams. You mentioned if you want to pivot ownership-wise, Adams is a pretty good guy to look at in that top spot, the superstar spot, and hope that he can have a much bigger game than, say, last week.
Yeah, we're looking at nobody covering Davante Adams here in this one. I'm looking at the cornerback matchups. Yeah, you have Okudah there. Oruwariye, he had 93rd out of 99 total qualified cornerbacks here. Amani is his first name. I apologize to his family there for butchering his last name, but he's not very good at football, and that's sad. But Will Harris, 76th out of 78 safeties. All PFF gradings that are just looking abysmal. There's no resistance whatsoever for him in this spot. Looking at some of the size of these corners too, everybody's underneath 6'1". You're talking about, Bobby Price, I guess, is 6'4" if they end up playing him. He's out of Norfolk College. I doubt he's going to see it down. We'll see who ends up being active for this team. But I got to think Corey Ballantyne, Gerald Worley, any of these other guys that they're bringing in at corner that could possibly be out there, they're not going to have any shot. AJ Parker was the guy who showed up and was actually semi-decent there. Only played, I believe it was 31 snaps there in that last game. I see nothing whatsoever. And we're going to say that a lot with Davante Adams as the year progresses, where it's like, how are we going to slow him down? The way that you slow him down is probably Aaron Jones having a big game. I see that being the biggest resistance for him in this spot, because if they want to pepper him with targets, they're just going to pepper him with targets, and there's no way around it.
I wouldn't recommend you being a defensive coordinator or giving a pep talk to the Lions here in their defense. If you want to stop Davante Adams, just don't cover this guy over here and then let him be the open guy. And for our purposes, it's a little different. Well, let's say you want to put Aaron Rodgers at the top, right? So you're going to have Davante Adams there. You figure they're connecting. You want to find another receiver, tight end to mix in here, and we'll throw the tight ends in here with the whole thing. Look, there's a lot of options. This is where you probably separate yourself tonight. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Alan Lazard, Robert Tonyan, the tight end. Maybe Randall Cobb gets in the mix. You can throw a dart and hope Mercedes Lewis is there at the goal line at some point in this game. Who, as you work your way down the list, are you saying, you know what, I'll take a shot on this guy?
So it gets very interesting. Yeah, tight end wise, I think Robert Tonyan we saw have a little bit of a red zone share last year. It's hard to have a red zone share with 18 touchdowns going to Davante Adams, but Robert Tonyan was still very serviceable in that spot. Didn't really garner a bunch of attention, but if you're looking for a single game, somebody you can get in the box once and twice, obviously you're going to need him. But Robert Tonyan would be the first pass catcher that I would look at kind of combining him with, because other than last week where Marquez Valdez-Scantling somehow led the team with 7 targets, I don't see anybody else really getting close to any kind of a workload. Not that they need to compare it to Davante Adams, but Even Tanya just has more of an opportunity to put up a score that you need here on this side. I think if we're just targeting targets specifically, we're better off going to the cheap end of Detroit, trying to take shots on one of two of them and just jamming in these top end studs from Green Bay. It makes more sense to me on this slate than any other. I know that's going to be a popular way of building, but it is also the right way of building, I think, on this game.
And this is what it's about, trying to build the right lineup, find the right way to take this down. And look, maybe you've already been playing some Yahoo Daily Fantasy here. If you haven't, jump on board. We have a brand new exclusive deal thanks to our partnership with Yahoo, where you can get 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's right, 2 free months. Now, to qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link in the description below, deposit, and play. That's it. And then Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest. We'll reach out via email with your coupon. And if you need immediate access because you want to play today, just email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you all set up. And again, to emphasize, this offer is for new Yahoo users only. If you're already a Yahoo user, you won't be eligible for this promo. Once you're signed up, make sure to enter tonight's single game 200K Monday Night Football single game baller contest. And with your 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum, you'll have access to our tools, projections specifically designed for Yahoo DFS to help you take down these big Yahoo contests and other contests to win big with Yahoo DFS. Take advantage and join Yahoo today. And the first thing that I noticed looking at Yahoo versus some other sites is it's not as advantageous to dig down and try to find like the Ricky Seals-Jones touchdown on Washington Thursday night, and he's $600 or something on DK. On Yahoo, they're all $10. That's the minimum price. And when you look at the most expensive guys, Davante Adams at $37, it's kind of more of an edge to some degree if you want to play down there because the ownership isn't going to be there, but you're not going to get the same crazy value if that's the stat that you're looking at.
Yeah, we're going to get some different kind of builds if you're going to be going down there for sure. And I'm willing to do it in this tournament. I mean, there's 22,250 entries, $10 entry fee, only a 10% management fee. I mean, that's as good as you're going to find period around the industry today. But the main thing that the reasoning that it's not as advantageous to go down there is the superstar is price independent. So you're basically paying $34 for Aaron Rodgers in the superstar spot. You're also paying $34 for him in the quarter or in the superstar or in the flex. Like, it doesn't matter which side you're playing him at. So therefore, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to play Amon-Ra St. Brown at $10 and put him in a superstar. It doesn't do anything for your lineup other than hoping that Amon-Ra St. Brown has the best game in the history of rookies to outperform Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams in this one. But there are some cheapies we can go down to. And I'm looking a lot more on the Detroit side. If I'm going to play 1 or 2 Detroit players, I think we're starting to look more at the running back side. We got to talk about Deandre Swift and Jamal Williams, 2 running backs, $22 and $16 on Yahoo today. And we saw both of them get an outrageous amount of work in the passing game in that garbage time. And that just speaks to how these wide receivers are not going to be able to get that open. And we're going to take shots on Quintez Cephas and some of these other guys way down here. But Deandre Swift and Jamal Williams are basically also going to be the passing game along with Hawkinson in this one. We saw 9 targets, 8 receptions for Jamal Williams in that game. Deandre Swift, 11 targets, 8 receptions for him. So if they get behind, that's going to be just a lot of dump offs here coming from Jared Goff, who isn't going to be pushing the ball as far downfield, especially with no Tyrell, the Gazelle Williams there. Khalif Raymond could be out as well. I'm looking really heavily at these running backs being my one play in these builds where I'm going to have 4 Green Bay Packers. And then on the cheap end, we are going to take some shots on Quintez Cephas. He at least saw the most targets there out of anybody from the wide receiver course, 7 total targets in the opening week. And, he'll probably be the most popular of the wide receivers that we're looking at from Detroit. But I think it's reasonable when you have a rookie and then Carterell Hodge and Trinity Benson. I mean, just absolute creative players on the bottom end.
Well, Trinity Benson actually came in and was playing with the starters last week when Terrell Williams went down. So, they like the fact that he got in the mix. And if you're trying to figure out, hey, who's next man up, at least for week 1, it was Trinity Benson. So he might get a lot of snaps, and we'll see if the production follows as well. Yeah. The biggest weapon, obviously, for Detroit, and I think where a lot of people are going to go, is the tight end TJ Hawkinson. I was getting a little nervous playing tight ends that aren't, Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, because you're either hoping that they come through at the goal line or that they just catch a ton of passes. And the advantage that Hawkinson has, he really will be the number one target, you would think, for Detroit in this game.
Yeah, no question. I think he probably went a little bit overlooked in week one in the main slate for sure. Seeing 11 targets for him is just a hefty number, but it makes sense. We saw, whether it was Gerald Everett or Higbee from the Rams, just get peppered with targets from time to time from Jared Goff. It's another short ADOT guy, TJ Hawkinson, who is going to have to do a lot for this football team in order for them to be semi-competent going forward here. But it's the same reason that I like the running back so much, just less downfield shots that you're going to see out of Jared Goff. You're seeing how immediately Matt Stafford is changing vertically what the Rams are able to do and how limited the Lions are going to be. Makes it a little bit easier to even just predict who we need to be going to. TJ Hawkinson at the top of the list of any pass catcher that you want to pair with Jared Goff. I don't think it's even like remotely close who I would want to pair him with. Other than the running backs, of course, which that kind of becomes an interesting build because then you have 3 Lions. That automatically makes your lineup different, I suppose. But no question about it, you're dead on. TJ Hawkinson has to be the main guy you're pairing with Goff.
And you touched on the running backs here for Detroit and how they could be a factor in the passing game as well. One of those little narratives is Jamal Williams, longtime Packer, fan favorite, going back to Lambeau Field. And there are some games where it matters, some games where it doesn't. I remember, look, I'm a Jets guy. Rex Ryan cared about that stuff. He always took the ex-player. They went out, they did the coin toss. He found a way to get them involved in the game plan. I don't know. And beyond the jaw for Dan Campbell, he strikes me as the kind of guy that's playing emotional firebrand football. Look, I think Jamal Williams is going to be a factor tonight. And you include in all of that Deandre Swift, while he is expected to play, what we don't know and won't know until about the second quarter is how limited he might be because of this groin injury he's dealing with.
In honor of our guy, Butthole Jenkins, who's always in the YouTube chat, lighting everything up, I'm going to cut the crap and give you my favorite Lions play. It's definitely Jamal Williams. And it has less to do with, I think he's going to be extra motivated. And it has more to do with, I think the Lions are going to be playing from behind. And he's $16. He is the easiest plug and play option. He falls at a nice price point. He falls at a nice position where I'm able to just play him as the one individual play along with 4 Packers and a lot of those builds. I can pair him with Goff. I can do just about anything I want with Jamal Williams and it makes sense. I strongly suggest upping your exposure to him. DeAndre Swift even has a Q tag next to his name. We'll see if that ends up changing a little bit of his rostership. It might. And in that event, I want to probably getting to more Swift. But as it stands right now, just independent of anything else, I think Jamal Williams completely stands out as the best play from Detroit.
I agree. I think Jamal Williams is going to be in a prime position tonight, and his coach is going to put him in some of those prime positions, and we'll play that up a little bit. I mean, I don't think Bill Belichick gives a crap if a guy's going back to another team, but I do think Dan Campbell will care.
Yeah. Did you see him explain about what it was like going back and playing against the Packers now and, his new contract with the Lions? Did you see Jamal Williams' press conference?
I didn't.
When we get done with this, you have to go back and watch it. Just Google Jamal Williams' new team or something. I don't know. Find his most recent press conference. It's the funniest thing in the entire world. It made me a Jamal Williams fan immediately, and not just because I hate the Packers.
Okay, so he's motivated is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's ready to rock.
Okay.
He's ready to rock.
As far as the Packers go, look, the no duh. Aaron Jones is going to be a factor one way or the other, especially if they're playing from ahead. I think you have to really like the Packers to have this game put away if you're going to justify the $31 here on Aaron Jones.
Yeah, Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones is probably the most interesting play on this entire slate for me, mainly because if you superstar him, it allows for you to basically say, I hope all the production floods through him, and you're allowed to play Goff, you're allowed to play Hawkinson, you're allowed to play DeAndre Swift or Jamal Williams, and kind of pair him because his production is almost going to be completely negatively correlated to the 2 highest owned players in this entire game, the 2 highest rostered players that we're going to see in Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. And we've seen Aaron Jones catch passes and create production in the passing game before, but not nearly as prevalently. And if we're going to see Green Bay driving and be productive there, he's your number one way to get different, I think. And I'm not sure how much to really go to him as of right now. It just comes down to a red zone situation where Aaron Rodgers has never, ever given the ball up in red zone scenarios. He just loves to be the guy who creates the touchdowns, who creates the value for his team. And helps having Davante Adams, having a massive target out there who can kind of do anything for you. So I understand that part of it. But Aaron Jones, if he can get a couple touchdowns in from the 15, 20-yard line, get some longer runs in there, it completely takes the air out of the ball here, and it allows for you to have completely different builds from the rest of the field. I think if I'm making 10 lineups, I probably want to have Aaron Jones superstar in at least one or two of them, and allows for me to get away from either Adams or Rodgers in those builds, and probably going to be getting off of Rodgers more for me, just because, you know, if Aaron Jones goes crazy, you got to think that Aaron Rodgers is probably the guy who benefits the least.
And if you go beyond Jones, AJ Dillon is, I mean, you've got to be looking probably like a 40-10 kind of game, and maybe you get some garbage time carries, but I think with the $15 price tag, it's probably a little tougher to get to him.
Yeah, it's tougher. Part of it is that he was on the field for only 28% of the offensive snaps there in week one. And that's concerning even more so just because it was garbage time. You would think that they were in garbage time for a quarter and a half of that game. And so for AJ Dillon, did they just say, hey, we want none of our starters out there whatsoever? Because AJ Dillon still feels like a guy early enough where you maybe want to get his feet underneath him and continue to give him some work, getting adjusted there. And again, I know this was a complete blowout. You can pretty much throw out everything from week one if you want to, but that at least is a little bit concerning to me, knowing that Jamal Williams role that used to be there in Green Bay is absent and that he's looking to fill it there. But I at least have my doubts and reservations about making him a major piece, especially because he just falls right next to Jamal Williams, who's just such an easier plug and play for me.
And then defensively, Packers, Lions. I mean, look, we're not going to play the Lions defense here. Packer, unless you think they're going to go New Orleans Saints on Aaron Rodgers again. But, you know, the Packers defense, if you don't think Jared Goff is anybody to throw to, they have no ability to move the ball at all. $14, do you consider it?
Okay, so $14 for them, yes. We do consider it because Detroit is that awful. We're going to get, 57 pass attempts from Jared Goff in week one. If we get something like 40, 45 in a negative game where they just are getting obliterated and Jared Goff has to try to air it out to get it closer, sure, I think we definitely can take some shots on Green Bay defense. And I have no problem trying to make that a thing. I think what's so hard for me is that in the event that we see a blowout here, you got to think the Packers are still putting up points. And so you need the Packers defense to outperform a lot of these guys, including Jamal Williams is a one-off, including Quintez Cephas, you know, a guy that has some explosiveness, could possibly get a deep touchdown, could make something happen. It feels like a tough spot, but everybody's a good play and every team is a good play at a certain rostership. And so if we see Green Bay coming in really, really low rostered on Yahoo tonight, I would take some shots there, but not anything I want to go crazy with, even on other sites tonight, not feeling like something that I want to be overly invested in.
No, those Lions receivers, they're cheaper. So, you know, one of them finds a 40-yard catch into the end zone and your Packers defense is kind of toast right there. So superstar, I like Davante Adams in this game. I think it's a good way to separate a little bit. I don't see who the heck is covering him. He's going to have targets. He's going to get opportunities. I'll throw last week out the window, the whole 9 yards. Who would be your number one superstar tonight?
My number one superstar would be Aaron Rodgers, but I'm with you. I'm thinking that I'm going to be getting to more Davante Adams. I see this being like a 130-2 kind of game. I think he's going to get peppered with probably 14, 15 targets at the minimum here. You know, he was able to get slowed down. Marshawn Lattimore is a fantastic corner and showed why he got that big contract. He was number 2 in week 1 in PFF's gradings, performed phenomenally well. There is no Marshawn Lattimore on the other side for the Lions tonight.
No, not at all. Well, we'll be doing this every Monday night, breaking down these games, and I'm hoping we'll have some better games to be breaking down going forward. Or maybe we get surprised tonight. We get that barn burner and be like last night, Chiefs, Ravens.
So good.
Don't necessarily count on it, though. Thanks for watching the Yahoo NFL Live show. And look, this is just the appetizer of the day. Still to come, the Awesemo DFS channel. You got MLB live before lock at 5:30 Eastern, and then the NFL Showdown Deeper Dive starting up at 6:30 Eastern. So a whole lot still to do and to break down with this game between the Packers and the Lions. We appreciate you joining. For Eric Lindquist, I'm Pete McCarthy. Good luck.